Hey there, hobby warriors. If you're new, welcome to the channel, and if you're a subscriber, welcome back. So, got a question for you guys. What do you get when you take Space and you take Samurai and you put them together? You get House Kurita for Battletech. So, growing up as a kid, Battletech was always one of my favorite sci-fi universes. When my family got our first family PC, it was bundled with a ton of software, as was the norm in the middle of the 90s. And the very first two games that I ever played on a PC were MechWarrior 2 and Heavy Gear 2. And I instantly fell in love with them. And I was super happy when I found out that the Battletech miniatures game was popping off in St. Louis, now that everyone who backed the Kickstarter is starting to get their clan invasion box sets in, and more stock is being seen in the local stores. Shout out to Game Night and Miniature Market. But yeah, so now we've actually got a fairly sizable player base in the local area, and I figured, why the heck not? You love the setting. Let's go ahead and do some House Kurita sort of light. So without further ado, we're going to jump into the painting tutorial. It's a super easy paint job today, guys. We're going to go for a really bright red, which is the color for all of the sort of light regiments, and we're going to heavily make use of enamel washing to give us our detail. So stick around, make sure you paid your Comstar bills, and don't miss the video. Alright, hobby warriors, so this is pretty exciting. I was finally able to mount a webcam inside of my airbrush booth, so I can actually show you guys all of my airbrushing steps in future painting tutorials. So starting off here, we're going to go ahead and prime all of our mechs through the airbrush with Vallejo Gray Surface Primer. I love Vallejo surface primers. You can get them in a variety of colors. I chose this light gray today because it makes a really good undercolor to get a vibrant red. So you don't really want to build up red off of black. You can, but why torture yourself, right? So it's best to use either a mid-tone gray or even a white. But this time around, I went ahead and chose gray. So moving right along, I've mixed Sanguine highlight from P3 and some Magenta ink, and we're using this to go ahead and do an all-over coat on the miniatures. In the end, this will be our shadow tone. Any kind of a dark red or a dark purple would work beautifully here. And next up, for our third step, we're going to go into Mephiston Red from Citadel Air, and we're going to do a 45-degree halo around the miniature so that we're hitting all of the raised panels, but we're not covering up that magenta color in our deep recesses. We're leaving that there. And again, just hit that 45-degree halo around all of your minis, and you can start to see the contrast really building up. And now what's going to punch it all through for us is this last step. We're going to take Evil Sun Scarlett through the airbrush, and we're going to concentrate this on the torso of the mechs as well as the very tops of the head and shoulders, and that creates a visual interest point where that part of the mini is brighter than the rest of the mini. But now we're ready to move on to highlighting. Alright guys, so now it is time to start highlighting our mechs. And so what we're going to do is take some Wild Rider Red, and we're going to get a brush with a nice tip, and we're going to painstakingly edge highlight all of these armor panels. Actually, I'm just kidding. What we're actually going to do is take a makeup brush, and we're going to very quickly dry brush all of these armor panels, because ain't nobody got time for all that. So, going to get some Wild Rider Red on our palette. And this specific brush that I am using, it's really just a cheap dollar store makeup brush. The key thing is that you want really, really soft bristles. That's the most important factor, and the longer the bristles are, that actually kind of helps you. I've actually got a few. This one I paid a little bit more money for. It's an elf contour brush. There's an older YouTuber. She's not really active too much anymore, but Terry Latorco, her channel's still out there, but she had recommended this brush, and it's never done me wrong. So I'll go ahead and use this one for the tutorial, but you get some paint on the brush. Then you want to get the majority of it off on your paper towel so that the bristles are closer to dry and you're not smudging wet paint over the model. And that looks about good. Then you just grab your model, and then we're just going to flick the brush all over. And now we're trying to get all of the edges of all of the panels. So you want to hit this all over the place. You want to rotate the model. You're going to want to hit it from different angles. And what this will do is the paint will catch on the edges and start to give us a really nice highlight. And now it will be a little hard to see right away, but if you keep doing more and more passes, the color will gradually get stronger. So just carry on with this until you've gotten all of your mechs done. Alright, now for our second stage of highlights, we're going to use this Rise of Rust dry paint. And now, with this being a Citadel dry, it's going to be really, really thick. Just dip your brush straight in the pot, get a little bit on those bristles, and same thing, we're going to really, really get most of it off of the brush. And work it into those bristles. Kind of do a finger test, see how much color you're leaving. And now with this, this is going to be a lighter dry brush, and it's going to be a little bit more targeted. So we're going to do sweeping motions from top to bottom. We're not trying to catch every single edge. We really just want to highlight those uppermost edges. And because this is orange, we don't want it to be super, super stark. We still want the mech to read red, but we want those upward facing edges to be a little bit lighter because they would catch some more sunlight. And now if you do apply this a little too heavy and it starts to read like bright orange, you can glaze over the panels with a thinned out Blood Angels Red contrast paint. I would suggest thinning it down maybe like 4 parts medium to 1 part Blood Angels Red, but that will tone everything back down into the red range. But that's about what we're going for. You got really nice sharp lines on those panel lines, and now we're ready to start detailing the gunmetal gray parts of the mech. Alright, so next up we're going to be base coating the internal structure and the weapons of all of our mechs, and I'm going to use Mechanicus Standard Gray. For these mechs, I'm going to go for a very simple non-metallic metal on these parts. So instead of using metallic paints, we're going to use gray paints and sort of do it in a grayscale. So the types of areas that I'm looking for, so here he's holding some kind of a weapon, so we're going to go ahead and hit that. And then certain parts of the torso, like right here, are going to be internal structure, so we'll go ahead and coat those areas as well. And now you do want to be careful and try to avoid spilling this onto the red areas that we've already base coated and highlighted. If you do make any mistakes though, you can clean up with Evil Sunz Scarlett and then just go ahead and apply your highlights via brush. but I'm going to carry on, and I'll show you what it looks like at the next step. Alright, hobby warriors, so we've gone ahead, we finished base coating all of that Mechanicus Standard Gray on all of our mechs, and so now we are going to dry brush it with Celestia Gray to go ahead and highlight it. Now, we're not trying to hit every single nook and cranny of that gray. We're really only going after the exposed bits. So any like joints or anything that'll be really hard to get a dry brush into, you don't need to worry about those spaces. We're really looking at like gun barrels, so like here, and like the exposed arm. And we're just going to quickly get our highlights on the gray like this. And now if you spill over onto some of the red, that's actually okay because it ends up looking like chipped paint, which just adds a little bit of weathering to the model. So you just want to carry on and dry brush all of these exposed areas just like this. And this will give us a nice, very quick and easy non-metallic metal look. That once we put our washes over top of this and blend everything together, it's going to look perfect. Alright, so you'll just want to carry on and do this for all of your mechs. And I am going to crack on, finish up all of my mechs, and then we'll get ready to varnish these so that we can start working with our enamels. Okay, so now we're going to coat all of our mechs with Liquitex Satin Varnish. This does two things for us. One, it's sort of a save button, so we can save all of our previous work. But then two, we want this semi-gloss surface, because that's going to really set us up and help us with our enamel washing in the next step. Alright everyone, so we have gone ahead and applied a satin varnish to all of the mechs that I was working on. And actually, this is a really good step in the process that if you're going to use any decals, once you put your varnish down, go ahead, apply your decals like I did on the shins here, and then you can go ahead and varnish over it to seal them in. There's a company called Fighting Piranha Graphics. Now, they do special decals specifically for Battletech. They have almost every regiment that you can think of that's ever been presented in any Battletech fiction. They also do decals for Heavy Gear Blitz. So I used a mixture of both. Heavy Gear Blitz, they have really nice unit numbers that have white backings with black text. So I used those on my mechs, and then of course I used the House Carita symbols. But now we're ready to go ahead and add some depth to the model by using a enamel wash. So what we're going to do, and do not be afraid when you watch me do this, it'll be a little scary, but I promise it'll be okay. So we're going to absolutely drench our models with this panel line wash, and then once the enamel paint is dry to the touch, we can then remove the excess off of our raised edges using a little bit of white spirit. So let's give this a good shake. And now, one thing to bear in mind is that enamel paint, unlike acrylic, is toxic. So if you're a brush licker, you do not want to lick your brush when you're using these. And also, when you clean your brush, you need to use white spirit or mineral spirits in order to get your brush clean. Water won't do anything to this paint. So all we're going to do is absolutely just drench the model with this wash. And you want to make sure that you work it into all of the recesses, all of the panel lines, fill in any holes like on missile launchers. And I mean, we are absolutely soaking this. And now the nice thing with using an enamel or an oil wash is that you don't have to reapply your base coats, since you can just easily remove the excess. And you'll see in a moment, once I'm done applying everything on this mech, that it's super quick, super easy, anybody can do it. And it's such a huge time saver, and you'll get really great results, especially if you took the time to work on all of those highlights like we did. And even though, you know, we just use simple dry brushing, all of that work that we put in before this step is going to help make the mechs look great. Alright, so this mech is completely coated. Almost. There we go. There. So I have absolutely soaked this mech in this wash. And all you're going to want to do is set this to the side, let it dry for roughly 10 minutes, so that it's dry to the touch. Now, the cool thing with enamels, unlike acrylics, is even though it'll be dry to the touch, you can reactivate the paint with white spirit, which is how we're going to actually end up removing it. So I got a little white spirit in here. We're going to clean our brush off. There we go. Alright, so all we're going to do for this next part, get yourself a little paper towel. We've already got our white spirit over here. And I have got a massive container of cotton swabs. So all we're going to do is dip this in our white spirit, and then you're going to dab the excess off on your paper towel. And now I've got a catapult that I had already prepared for this stage while that other mech is drying. So as you can see, it's dry to the touch. I can't smear it with my finger, but when I take this damp cotton swab and just lightly drag it over the raised surfaces, each pass that I do slowly removes a little bit of that dried enamel paint from your raised edges, but the cotton swab is too big to get down into the recesses, so it leaves all of your shading in the recesses and just removes that dark paint from your high points on the bottle. Now, the cool thing, well, I mean, there's tons of cool things. I've been talking about all of the cool things, but my favorite property of using an enamel wash or an oil wash over your acrylics is that you can control how much of it you're removing, which lets you get some blended effects on your raised surfaces. So, like I said, each pass that you do, it's not going to remove all of it. So if you're working on an area that's in shadow, you can remove a little bit of it, but then leave a decent portion of it, you know, butting up against your recesses on the bottle. This is actually also really what's going to sell that super easy non-metallic metal by dirtying up those grays, and we can get some really nice gradients. And when you drag this along the edges, you'll reclaim your edge highlights. It's just so easy to do this. So I'm going to go ahead and finish these two mechs, and then all we have to do is the cockpits. Alright, hobby warriors, so now it is time to start on the cockpit glass for all of our mechs. So what we're going to do, it's a two-step process. So first, I'm going to use Quicksilver from P3, and now any really bright metallic silver will work for this. If I had Vallejo Chrome, I probably would have used that. This was just the brightest silver that I had on hand. And now what's going to create the effect for us is this Ammo by MIG acrylic crystal paint. I'm using their Crystal Light Blue for my mechs, but they have a wide range. I'm just going to leave that in because I've been working on this project for so long, I don't even want to do a blooper reel. But they have a wide range of these colors, and like this one is Crystal Orange, which is really good if you wanted like an orangey yellow. There's a red one. They have a smoky black one. Do I have that one? Yeah, I do. Crystal Smoke. So these come in a wide range of colors, and they're very versatile. So they're pre-thinned, they're hyper translucent, and I don't quite know what type of acrylic medium that they use in these, but it has a somewhat extended working time, and you're able to kind of push it around with your brush exactly where you want it, and that lets you control the sort of tinting effect that you're going to do. But in order for these to work, you either need to apply it to a transparent plastic part or paint a really bright silver for your base coat before you put this on top. So I've already got the silver on the palette. Let's get some of this blue on here. And the other really nice thing with the Ammo by Mig paints, they actually come with mixing balls already in them. So we're gonna get this catapult, do the silver on the cockpit. And now you do want to be very careful. You do not want to screw this part up and end up messing up all of your red and all of the highlighting and shading that we've already done. So just very gingerly dot this in, try to stay within the lines. Don't be afraid to move the mini around. You want to brace your hands, so you can't really see, but my elbows are on the table. My hands are pressed together so that I've got as much control as I possibly can. And you do want to make sure that none of the red is showing through. You want a nice solid base coat, especially on the high points of the glass. And it's okay if you leave some of that shade from the wash in the deep recesses. That will help sell the effect of the tinted glass so that you still have some shadow. So you don't want to push this all the way into the recesses, but you do want to make sure that you've got a nice solid coat. There we go. That should be good. Now, while that's drying, and you do need to have that dry before you apply the acrylic crystal, I've got another mech here where I've already applied the silver bits, and literally we're just going to load our brush and get the majority of this off, and just tap it right in over top of the silver. And the paint actually likes to stay on your brush, so it gives you more control over the intensity, and you can kind of push it around where you want it. I typically like to push it into the shadow so that the silver will be really bright, like in the middle of the panel, and you get that really nice tint down in your shadow, but everything will be blended together really nice when that dries. So that's how you apply it. And then just to show you real fast what it looks like when it's all dry, this is a finished one that I've done, and you can see it just really looks awesome. One of the easiest ways to paint glass, especially on something that's so tiny. But that's it. That's how you paint your House Carita mechs. I'm going to go ahead and set up a final shot, and we'll move into the outro. Alright, everyone, and here are my finished Carita mechs. I painted up 5.5 lances throughout the 3 weeks that it took me to make this video. I am super pleased with how these turned out. As always, let me know what you guys think down in the comments. But for, a simple, nice, clean color scheme, it doesn't get any easier than this. The airbrush made applying the reds really easy, and then that enamel wash, just tying everything together and giving it that depth, and with the easy cleanup, and you didn't have to reapply your base layers. We were able to use dry brushing to get our highlights, so it was just really simple to get a really great result. I'm super happy with how these turned out. We'll go ahead and get some close-ups just so that you guys can see everything, catch all those details. And I do want to give credit, not all of these are the official Catalyst game sculpts. Anything that's not an official plastic mini, I use Syllogy's 3D print files from my mini factory. He does a lot of mechs based off of the video game models, and they look absolutely fantastic. So that's all I got for this one, Hobby Warriors. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments, and I will catch you in the next video. Keep slaying that gray.